I'm not the kind of man who scares easily. I've worked with difficult clients, traveled through storms, slept on airport floors. But the moment that flight attendant grabbed my wrist and whispered, "Watch him," something in her voice cut straight through me. Quiet, controlled, almost afraid. I should have listened right away. Instead, I did what tired, rational adults do. I told myself she was overreacting, that I was reading too much into her tone. But an hour later, I would understand exactly what she meant. The story starts earlier that morning when my boss, Daniel Price, regional director, the kind of man who lives on caffeine and charm, stopped by my desk. He didn't ask, he instructed. "Pack a bag. You're flying with me to Denver. Meeting moved up. Wheels up at 2. No explanation. No warning. Just that clipped voice he used whenever he wanted something done yesterday. I didn't argue, though I should have. Daniel wasn't just my boss. He was the kind of leader people trusted automatically. Sharp suit, confident handshake, calm under pressure. Or at least that was the version of him I'd come to know. So I grabbed my laptop, threw 2 shirts and a carry-on, and met him at the gate. He looked wrong. Not disheveled. He'd never allow that. But restless. Phone glued to his hand. Jaw clenched. Eyes scanning everyone like he expected someone to walk up and accuse him of something. When I asked if everything was okay, he forced a smile that didn't touch his eyes. "Nerves," he said. "Big deal today." Right. Except Daniel wasn't the nervous type. We boarded early. He walked ahead of me, practically pushing through the aisle, and slid into his seat with a sharp exhale. I took the seat beside him, opened my laptop, tried to act normal. That lasted maybe 2 minutes before the flight attendant approached. She was young, but carried herself like someone who'd seen enough red-eye flights to know when something wasn't right. Blonde hair tied back, calm eyes, steady voice. She leaned in just slightly, looking past me toward Daniel. "Is he with you?" she asked. I nodded. "My boss." Her gaze didn't move. "Is he all right?" I frowned. "Just stressed. Big presentation." She inhaled quietly through her nose, not disbelief, something closer to recognition. Then she said it. "Be careful with him today." I almost laughed, not out of disrespect, just the sheer oddity of it. A stranger warning me about a man whose performance reviews used words like exceptional and dependable. I said, "Why?" Did he say something? Trying to keep my voice low, but she shook her head. "It's not what he said, it's how he's acting. I've seen that kind of shaking before, like someone who's carrying something they don't want anyone else to see." I glanced at Daniel. He was gripping his phone so tight his knuckles were pale. Sweat dotted his temple. I opened my mouth to ask her what she meant, but she straightened, professional mask back in place. "If you need anything," she said quietly, "press the call button, even if it's something small." Small. I didn't understand that word until much later. The plane took off smoothly. Daniel spent the climb staring out the window like the clouds were closing in on him. Every few minutes his phone would vibrate, and he'd flinch. Not jump. Flinch, like the sound burned. I pretended to work, but my eyes kept drifting to him. At one point he leaned toward me, voice barely above a whisper. "When we land," he said, "you'll follow my lead. No questions. Got it?" I stiffened. "Sure, but no questions." His tone wasn't stern. It was desperate. That was the first moment something cold settled in my stomach. 30 minutes into the flight, he excused himself to the restroom. The second he closed the door, the same flight attendant appeared beside me, her voice low and urgent. "You need to pay attention," she said. "He's not just stressed. Men like that, when they're hiding something, they make sudden decisions. They drag other people into them." I swallowed hard. "You're scaring me for no reason." "No," she said softly. "I'm warning you for a reason." Before I could respond, Daniel returned, eyes bloodshot, hands trembling just enough for me to notice. He sank into his seat, exhaled sharply, and muttered something under his breath that I didn't catch. But then his phone buzzed again. He read the message. and all the color drained from his face. He didn't look scared. He looked cornered. He closed the screen so fast it might as well have burned him, and leaned back in his seat, staring at nothing, with this hollow, calculating expression. I didn't know it yet, but that single text, whatever was in it, was the real beginning of everything that would follow. That was the moment I should have stood up, walked to the front of the plane, and asked the attendant exactly what she'd noticed. But I didn't. And 1 hour later, I'd realized how close I came to stepping into something that wasn't a business trip at all. The moment we landed, Daniel shot out of his seat like the plane was on fire. No good flight, no let's head out together. He just walked fast, almost running, weaving through passengers with this sharp, nervous precision I'd never seen in him. I followed him through the terminal, trying to match his pace. He didn't slow down until we reached the rental car garage. He tossed me the keys. "You're driving," he said. I frowned. "We agreed you'd handle the meetings." "We're not going to the meeting yet." He scanned the levels like he expected someone to be watching us. "Change of plans." That phrase alone scraped something raw inside me. Daniel was structured, methodical. He didn't do change of plans. "Okay," I said carefully. "Where are we going instead?" He opened the passenger door, slid in and shut it, harder than necessary. "Just drive. I'll tell you where." I stood there for a second, hand on the door handle, and realized something simple and incredibly uncomfortable. For the first time since I'd started working with him, Daniel was scared. Not annoyed, not stressed. Scared. We pulled out of the garage, and he immediately started giving directions. Left, right, merge, turn, with no explanation, like he was trying to shake someone off our tail. I kept glancing at him, waiting for some kind of normal conversation, but he was glued to his phone again, tapping messages, deleting them, rewriting them. "Daniel," I finally said, "can you tell me what's going on? I'm here to work. Just give me something." He didn't look up. "The less you know, the safer you are." Those words dropped like a stone between us. "The safer I am?" I repeated. "From what?" He didn't answer. His phone buzzed again, and he jerked, gripping the device with shaking fingers. He read the message, hissed a curse under his breath, and shoved the phone away like every notification was a countdown. That's when he said it. The first phrase that made me fully understand the flight attendant's warning. "Just keep your head down today, okay? If anyone asks, you're just my assistant. You don't know anything." "I am your assistant on this trip?" "No." He rubbed his forehead. "Today, you're a shield." He must have realized what he said because he snapped his mouth shut, staring out the window. I felt a slow burn crawl up my spine. A shield. A buffer. Something he could put in front of himself if things went wrong. "Daniel," I said quietly, "did you get me involved in something I shouldn't be part of?" He didn't speak. I knew the answer. We drove to a hotel, except it wasn't the hotel corporate had booked. I knew because I had the itinerary. This place was cheaper, off-brand, sitting like a forgotten box between a gas station and an abandoned diner. Daniel grabbed his bag and hurried inside, motioning for me to follow. The woman at the front desk didn't ask for his ID. She just handed him a key, like he was a regular who came here for reasons people don't say out loud. When she turned to me, Daniel cut in. "He's not checking in." "He's with me." I blinked. "I need my own room." "Not here. Corporate can't see this charge," he snapped, just low enough for only me to hear. Something tightened in my chest. "Daniel, why would corporate care?" He grabbed my arm and pulled me aside, voice dropping to a whisper edged with panic. "Stop asking questions. If you start digging, you'll make this worse for both of us." Both of us. He kept saying phrases like that, like whatever mess he was in had somehow expanded to include me. We went up to a small, cramped room that smelled like old carpet and cleaning chemicals. Daniel locked the door immediately, slid the chain across, and pulled the curtains shut. Then he paced. "Okay," he muttered. "Okay. I can fix this. I think I can fix this." "Fix what?" He didn't answer until his phone vibrated again. When he saw the caller ID, he froze. Not like a man caught doing something wrong, like a man caught doing something dangerous. He answered on speaker by mistake. A man's voice came through. Cold, irritated. "You're late. And bringing someone with you? That wasn't the deal." Daniel fumbled, immediately taking the phone off speaker, but the man already knew. "You have 1 hour," the voice said sharply, "and if he talks, it's on you." Daniel hung up fast, breathing hard, eyes darting to me. "Who the hell was that?" I demanded. "Don't," he whispered. "You don't want to know." But I finally understood something. This wasn't a meeting. This wasn't a project. This wasn't business at all. "Daniel," I said, voice low and steady, "did you drag me into something illegal?" He looked at me, then really looked at me, and I saw it. Guilt, fear, calculation. "That depends," he said, "on how well you follow instructions." A cold, sharp pressure tightened around my heartbeat. I didn't know it yet, but that sentence would cost him everything. And then, silence. The kind that means something's already gone wrong. Daniel didn't move for a long second after that call ended. He just stood in the middle of the room, phone in his hand, like he'd been unplugged. Then he snapped back and turned on me. "You're going to sit down, shut up, and do exactly what I say," he said. "We're meeting some partners. You're there to take notes and sign what I tell you to sign, nothing else." My stomach dropped. "Sign what?" "It's paperwork," he snapped. "You sign forms all the time." "Not for men who give you 1-hour ultimatums." His jaw clenched. "Grant, I don't have time to offer you the full story. You owe me. I got you this job. I've covered for your mistakes. This is you covering for mine." It was a neat little rewrite of history. Classic Daniel. He'd covered for me once on a minor email mishap and treated it like he'd single-handedly rescued my career. Still, it stung. It was meant to. I sat on the edge of the bed, more to steady myself than anything. If this was legit, you wouldn't need secrecy in a budget hotel. He looked away. That was all the answer I needed. He grabbed his bag, yanked the zipper open, and started rifling through papers. A folder slid toward the edge and fell to the carpet. Pages spilled out. I bent to pick them up. He didn't notice. On the top sheet, my name stared back at me in clean, printed letters. Not typed, signed. In my handwriting, or a close attempt. Authorization to act as purchasing agent. Sole responsibility clause. Indemnity language dense enough to hide a body. My chest went cold. "What the hell is this?" He looked over, annoyance flaring first, then something else when he realized what I was holding. "Put that down. You forged my signature." "It's not forging if you would have signed it anyway," he said too quickly. "I just expedited the process." There it was. The line that finally tore something in half inside me. I stood up slowly. Expedited the process of making me the fall guy? He stepped toward me, hands up like he was calming a skittish animal. "Listen, this vendor deal has some side incentives. They needed a name that wasn't already in the system. A clean one. No flags. You're new enough. No history. It's safer that way. For who? For all of us." That was the moment I stopped being the grateful employee and started being someone else. I folded the papers carefully and slid them back into the folder, but not before my phone, in my other hand, took 3 quick photos. I didn't even think about it. My thumb just moved. Evidence. Proof. A tiny, quiet act of self-defense. He didn't notice that either. "Get your jacket," he said. "We're leaving in 10. "Where are we meeting them?" "Downtown. Neutral spot." Neutral. Right. The ride in the elevator felt like being lowered into something heavy and invisible. In the lobby, people moved in slow, normal patterns, checking in, dragging suitcases, ordering ride shares. I wanted to grab one of them, any of them, and say, "Do you see this? Do you see what's happening?" But all they'd see was 2 men in business, casual, heading to a meeting. On the sidewalk, Daniel ordered a car. While we waited, my phone buzzed. An email from corporate travel, confirming the original hotel they thought we were at. The nice one. The one with a lobby you could put on a brochure. I stared at it. One tap, and I could forward those contract photos to someone whose job it was to care. Legal. Compliance. Anonymous hotline. My thumb hovered. Not yet, I thought. Get the whole picture. We ended up in a small cafe on a side street, the kind of place that looks charming until you notice the chipped tables and the way the barista keeps her eyes on the back door. A man in a suit sat alone near the back. No laptop, no food. Just a phone and a folded newspaper he never turned. He stood when he saw Daniel. "You're late," he said. His voice was the same one from the call. It sounded even colder without the static. Daniel forced a smile. "Traffic?" The man's eyes slid to me. "And this?" "My associate," Daniel said. "He handles the paperwork." I sat down without offering a hand. The man watched that, filed it away. "Name?" he asked. "Grant." "Grant," he repeated, rolling it like he was testing how it would sound on a report. "Do you understand what you're signing today?" Daniel jumped in. "We've gone through it." "I asked him," the man cut in. For a moment, Daniel's mask slipped. He didn't like not being the one in control. Good. I looked the stranger in the eye. "I've seen some documents with my name on them," I said. "I didn't sign them." The man's expression didn't change, but something in the air did. "Is that so?" Daniel's knee bumped mine under the table, a silent warning. "Shut up. I didn't." "Before I sign anything," I went on, "I'd like to know why the agreements root all liability to me and not the company actually paying the invoices." The man smiled then. It didn't reach his eyes. "You're sharper than he said." Daniel's jaw ticked. "Grant, you're overcomplicating this." "No," I said quietly. "You are." That was my first small act of revolt, right there in that sticky, cramped cafe. One sentence, but the room rearranged itself around it. The man leaned back, studying Daniel like a mechanic evaluating a damaged car. "You told me he was on board." "He is," Daniel said quickly. "He's just nervous." "I'm not nervous," I said. "I'm just not going to prison for a discount vendor contract." The word prison landed hard. A couple at the next table looked up. The man's gaze sharpened. "Who said anything about prison?" "Nobody," I replied. "And that's the problem. Nobody in this whole arrangement is thinking one step ahead. So let me make it simple. If you put my name on something I didn't sign, that's fraud. If money moves and the company doesn't know, that's embezzlement. And if you keep talking like this is no big deal, I'm going to walk out and send everything I have to our legal department before you finish your coffee." For a heartbeat, nobody breathed. Then Daniel hissed, "Grant, don't be dramatic." That word again. I looked at him. Really looked. The man who'd always walked into rooms like he owned the oxygen now looked small, cornered between his own choices. "They think I'm your shield," I said in my head. "They think I'm going to take the hit to protect the man who dragged me here." But that was just the beginning. Out loud, I said, "I'm not signing anything." The man in the suit tapped his fingers on the table. "You understand," he said slowly, "that if you pull out now, everything points to you. The emails, the authorizations, the account in your name." Ice slid down my spine. "Account?" Daniel's eyes flashed. "I told you I'd handle that." "You opened an account in my name?" I asked, voice dangerously calm. "It's just a pass-through," he snapped. "The numbers move. We all get our cut. It closes. No one gets hurt." "No one," I repeated, "except the person whose name is on it when everything blows up." I felt something shift inside me then. A line, maybe the same one the flight attendant had seen. The moment where fear stops being the loudest thing in the room. They thought I was cornered. I wasn't. I slid my phone onto the table. Screen up. The camera app was still open from the room. A red dot blinked. Recording. The man's eyes flicked to it, then back to me. "You've been recording?" "Long enough," I said. "Long enough to show that I'm not the architect here. I'm the employee who got dragged into a side deal without his consent." Daniel swore under his breath. "Grant, turn that off." "No," I said. "Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to email these photos and this recording to our compliance office the second I walk out that door. I'm going to CC our CFO. If either of you try to use my name on anything else, that becomes obstruction on top of fraud." The man's calm cracked for the first time. "You think you're the first person to threaten that?" "I think I'm the first person with enough proof and nothing to lose," I answered. He studied me again. The cafe hum came back around us. Cups clinking, plates scraping, a doorbell chiming as someone left. It all sounded far away. Finally, he sighed. "You picked the wrong guy to drag into this, Daniel." Daniel opened his mouth, closed it, swallowed. "We can still fix it. We can shift the paperwork, move the dates, use another—" "No," the man said, "and we're done." He stood, straightened his jacket, and looked at me. "If anyone asks, you were never here." "I was here," I said, "and I remember everything." He walked out without looking back. Daniel sagged into his chair like someone had cut his strings. For a moment he looked less like a leader and more like a man who just watched his last lifeline walk out the door. "You just burned every bridge you have," he said. "No," I replied, feeling that strange, unfamiliar steadiness settle in. "I just stopped you from using me as one." He stared at me, eyes narrow, calculating again. "You really think the company's going to take your side over mine? After everything I've done for them? For you?" I thought of the forged signature, the hidden hotel, the account in my name. "I think," I said slowly, "they're going to be very interested in who signed what." That was my small explosion, my first real swing back. It didn't fix everything, not yet, but it changed the direction of the fall. They thought I'd walk out of that cafe scared and silent. They thought I was gone. I wasn't. Daniel didn't speak to me the entire ride back to the hotel. He kept his head down, jaw locked, scrolling through messages like he was looking for someone, anyone, who could still save him. But whatever he'd been part of, whatever deal he'd built on secrecy and shortcuts, it crumbled the moment the man in the cafe walked away. When we stepped into the lobby, Daniel headed straight for the elevator without waiting to see if I followed. I didn't. I sat in one of the faded chairs near the check-in desk, pulled out my laptop, and connected to the hotel Wi-Fi. He must have heard the click of the keyboard, because he came back fast, eyes wide. "Grant, don't do anything stupid." I didn't look at him. Sending evidence to compliance isn't stupid. Dragging me into your mess was. "You don't understand," he hissed, leaning closer. "If you send that email, I'm done." "You were done the second you forged my name." He grabbed the arm of my chair, fingers digging in. "We can figure this out. I can talk to them. I shook my head. "There's no we here. There never was." He let go of the chair as if it burned him. My inbox finished uploading the photos and audio file. The email sat there ready, addressed to compliance, HR, the CFO, and legal. 4 recipients. 4 safety nets. 1 click ended the conversation. Daniel inhaled sharply, like a drowning man realizing the water is deeper than he thought. "You don't know what this will start." "Yes," I said quietly. "For the first time, I do." I pressed send. It felt like a door closing, and something lighter settling on my shoulders. Daniel stared at my laptop like he'd just watched someone push a domino that would knock down his entire life. In a way, he had. He stepped back, shook his head once, and walked away toward the elevator. He didn't slam the button. He didn't swear. He didn't beg. He looked like a man who had finally run out of lies to stand on. Corporate moved faster than I expected. By the time we boarded the flight home that evening, I'd already received 3 messages from legal requesting follow-up calls, 2 from compliance thanking me for reporting promptly, and 1 from HR scheduling a formal interview. Daniel got nothing. He sat 3 rows ahead of me, alone, shoulders tense, phone silent. For the entire flight, he didn't turn around once. Right before takeoff, the same flight attendant from earlier passed down the aisle. She recognized me immediately. Her eyes softened. "You listened," she said quietly. "Not in time," I replied. She gave a small, knowing smile. In time enough. When she walked away, I exhaled for the first time in hours. The next morning at the office, everything moved with surgical precision. HR called me in first, then legal, then two people from the internal investigations team. I showed them the photos, the forged signature, the recording, the shady hotel booking, the unauthorized account. Every detail lined up exactly the way they expected. Not chaotic, not emotional, just facts. By noon, Daniel was removed from all systems. By 2, he was placed on administrative leave. By 5, he was escorted out of the building. No yelling, no scene, no dramatic exit. He walked past my desk without looking at me, without saying a single word, and for the first time since I'd started working under him, he looked like the exact size he really was. Not larger than life, not untouchable, not brilliant. Just small. A man who finally stood alone with the consequences he had written himself into. The company released a statement 2 days later. Improper vendor dealings, forged internal documents, misuse of employee credentials, pending legal review. They didn't mention my name. They didn't need to. The CFO called me personally. "Thank you for coming forward when you did," she said. "You prevented a serious breach." My department director offered me paid leave. "You've been through enough. Take a week, maybe 2. But I didn't need to. I needed one quiet evening to breathe. That evening, I walked home from the office instead of taking the train. I watched people talk on sidewalks, laugh outside restaurants, live simple lives untouched by schemes and desperation. My phone buzzed a couple of times, HR confirming they'd secured my records, legal thanking me again, compliance documenting the case, but nothing from Daniel. Later, I learned he tried to blame me to save himself, claimed I'd gone rogue, that I'd misunderstood instructions, that I'd panicked and made things worse. But the timeline, the recordings, the signatures, the account details, all of it stacked against him like bricks in a wall. There was no opening for him to escape through. "Choices leave footprints," one of the investigators told me. "His are everywhere." I didn't ask what would happen to him legally. I didn't need to know. All I knew was that I wasn't the one who would pay the price for his shortcuts. A week later, I returned to the airport. Not for a trip, just to pick up a relative who was flying in. While I waited, I saw the same flight attendant again, pushing a cart of safety information to a gate. She recognized me instantly. "How did it end?" she asked. "Clean," I said. "Cleaner than it could have," she nodded. "I'm glad you got out early." "Not early enough," I said, "but early." There was something comforting about the way she nodded, like she knew the cost of ignoring red flags better than most people. Before she walked away, she paused. "People show you who they are in small ways," she said. "Most ignore it. You didn't." I thought about Daniel, his restlessness, his secrets, the way he hid behind charm, the way he expected people to carry his consequences for him. "No," I said, "not anymore." She smiled, then headed toward her gate. I watched her leave, then slipped my hands into my pockets and breathed in the cold, clean airport air. No fear, no weight, just peace. The kind you earn. The kind you only find after you finally stop carrying someone else's mistakes. And for the first time since that rushed morning before the flight, I felt like myself again. Steady, grounded, untangled from anything that wasn't mine to begin with. This time, nothing was waiting to pull me down with it. I walked out of the terminal into the bright evening light and didn't look back.